You're not a witch. Sure I am. Witches aren't real, aren't they? Well, if you're a witch, do a spell. Fine. Well, aren't you gonna do it? I just did. Well, nothing happened. Wait.
Not only did I have these weird scratches, but I watched a candle get yeeted across my room because my deities were trying to get me to pay attention because something was really, really wrong.
Happiness, and you just have peace. Take care of yourself, baby.
With this candle I do ensure that my spell does travel and endure over the lands, the skies, and seas to bring my desire back to me. Gods and goddesses of the sea, listen now and hear my plea. I wish to be a mermaid, a truly magical being. Let this symbol transform me into a mermaid, a magical being. Blood red, pale skin, moonlight draw me in, quench my thirst, couring veins, let my body feel no pain, so mote it be. With these 3 spells chanted, I've allegedly split my soul into 3 and allowed my being to embrace the form of a vampiric witch mermaid. With these 3 spells chanted, every other person who came across them, including myself, remained nothing more than a mere hunk of human body meat. No matter the amount of time spent repeating various spells, no matter the dedication, no matter the effort, we all remain prisoners of our fantasies.
Anaiku sanaye, 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 anaiku sanaye, sanaye, sanaye.
Throughout time, creatures of folklore have evolved with every passing century, from the old medicine hags living in uncertain solitude outside medieval towns, to Vlad III impaling all of those he deemed fit for a stake, to the delusional young minds of witch talkers on TikTok, throwing together some dollar store ingredients to create a plethora of magical potions. I want to go through history and examine the creatures of the night and the oddities of the world. Feast your eyes upon the absurdity that is the evolution of witches, vampires, and other folklore in past and present times. As seen in previous clips, the witches of the modern day are peculiar in nature, and seem to have taken the ideas of a witch and modified them significantly to give it a sort of vibe that would coincide with the countless amount of other cliques formed on the internet to give outsiders some sense of community where everyone's thoughts are united as one. This would include the formation of a specific aesthetic to physically display one's allegiance to this clique, as well as shared thoughts and views of everyday life that individuals would express to be relatable and in line with other individuals' thoughts of the clique in order to further strengthen the bond with one another. Before I get into the details of how a typical witch portrays themselves in the year 2020, I want to go far back into the origins and briefly go over the early days of witches and how they evolved throughout the millennium into the small cult following of fatuous social media dwellers that the majority of them are today. The word witch itself has been a word that existed for over 1,000 years. Old English formed the compound Witchcraft from the words Wicca and craft. There has not been a consistent definition of the term witch throughout history, but some of the available definitions today will be as follows. One that is credited with usually malignant supernatural powers, especially a woman practicing usually black witchcraft, often with the aid of a devil or familiar. An ugly old woman, are also known as a hag. A charming or alluring girl or woman. A practitioner of Wicca. Despite these definitions referring to witches primarily as being female, male witches exist under different names, including magicians, sorcerers, wizards, warlocks, and so forth. Not all witches are the exact same.
Akira authors children's books about a bunny named Rupert who learns about pagan holidays. She says along with her Wiccan beliefs, she is a practicing elemental witch.
There are many different types of witches, with the most commonly known type being the satanic witches. They derive their powers directly from Satan, usually through sexual means. These witches are probably the most recurring type in popular fictional media, and often aren't the type that a practitioner of witchcraft in the real world would find influence from. Pagan witches, or the natural witches, are those that gain power from nature, and are mostly in tune with the power of nature itself. These type of witches are probably the most common that you would see on the internet today. They use herbs, hair, and a variety of other ingredients to put together potions with supposed magical properties, as well as burn candles, read tarot cards, and mingle in astrology. Another type I'd like to make mention of are the solitary witches. These witches follow no specific coven, and are independent in a sense. They practice whatever witchcraft, or mix of witchcraft, that they seem fit for their own personal uses. The notoriety of witches especially came to light around the period of the 1400s, where a group of writers involved in the church would describe the horrific acts of satanic witches, such as worshipping demons, eating babies, group orgies, and so forth. The reasoning for these writings may have been to point a finger at a broader group of people found throughout different regions, and expand the jurisdiction of the church by means of eradicating these people throughout the land by prosecuting them accordingly to the newfound popularity of witchcraft. It seems most likely from my understanding that these groups of witches weren't particularly involved exclusively in antagonistic acts against humanity, but more so the Catholic Church wishing to gain more power as a way of using scare tactics to bring attention to witches across the land and banishing them in cruel or unusual ways. This was most apparent in the famous Salem witch trials in 1692, which was one of the last greatest acts to wipe witches out of existence in this specific area of the Western world. I won't dive extraordinarily deep into the full history of witches, considering that the amount of information explained can span over the course of many hours, but a decent starting point would be the mention of healers in the medieval period. Many of the healers that treated ailments during this period were typically older women who were often referred to as hags. It's a term often used as an insult in the modern day, but hags were known to be revered in their communities. The old age of a healer was usually seen as a positive thing, where elderly people were seen as the most knowledgeable in the population, as reaching an old age in this period usually meant great experience. Hags would often live out at the edge of towns in secluded little huts, most likely due to the quicker access to medicinal herbs and ingredients found in the woods. Although these healers were deeply valued, they were quick to be accused of black magic if a patient of theirs had passed away due to their practice. This is where the terms black magic and white magic became apparent. White magic was looked up upon by many, and is the use of 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. This magic was used for selfless acts, usually pertaining to the act of healing, blessings, prayers, and so forth, with the means to grant another person protection or good health and fortune. On the other end of the spectrum is black magic. Black magic is used with the purpose of casting dark, malevolent spells on people. These spells are known as hexes or curses. When an ill person succumbed to their misfortune under the care of healers, the healer would be exiled or put to death after being accused of witchcraft. Obviously, there is no actual magic being put to use in any of these instances, and the accusations would snowball over the next couple of centuries as the church would go through any means necessary to gaining power and frightening people with the thought that magic was legitimate and that there were witches capable of performing this magic. Looking at it from a logical standpoint, it would be the equivalent of accusing doctors and surgeons today of black magic for killing a patient due to the complications during procedures. Now to make a massive leap into recent times. Witches have been popularly used in media for a good part of the last century. This includes, but is not limited to, the Harry Potter series, Midsummer, The Black Cauldron, The Addams Family, and The Witcher. All of the different types of fictional media portray witches in various different forms and types, as mentioned earlier. For the most part, many witch characters borrow inspiration from satanic witches to portray an antagonistic character. Although they became popular in media, real practitioners of this type of witchcraft would find communities, particularly that of the occultist Anton LaVey and the Satanic Church. Much like practitioners of other religions, those that are witches who affiliate with the Satanic Church practice witchcraft similar to how anyone would use prayer or any sort of ritual that are in line with their beliefs. No sorts of supernatural magic is occurring here, however, and it's simply a practice to get in touch with one's own spirituality and heighten one's willpower. This is something that has gotten a bit chaotic in most recent times. A community of witches, who most likely made their debut on Tumblr, migrated to the social media platform TikTok, and would have become known as witch talkers. The members of the witch talk community are the current form of mainstream witches today that decided to take the origins of witchcraft and mix it in with the constant growth of fictionally portrayed witchcraft.
I received my crystal box and I literally want to show you guys. So at the beginning of each month, they ask you what your intentions and what you need in a little survey, and they customize your box to that actual survey. So that's why I love it. Let's show you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Here are the lunar event, and they sent a solar plexus tea for yourself. Oh my god. And in this little scroll, it tells you everything you need to know about each crystal that they sent. It literally gives you information about everything. Now let's get into the crystal. California farmers harvested this fresh jade and covered it in rose petals corresponding to each chakra. How pretty! Look at how stunning. Oh my god. I don't know what these are or what they do, but I feel like they're literally gonna allow me to go into like the astral dimension or something. Yeah, you guys can find them at the Crystal Council. Oh my, look at the sticker they sent!
Glass of water. And you're gonna want to purify the water. So I got some salt. I have pink Himalayan. Pour that in it. Goodness. Our egg. You want to leave it out for about an hour or so because you don't want it to be like super cold. And all you're gonna do is just set your intentions. You know, break the egg, but make sure you don't like break the yolk. Right off the bat, this is not good. So these needles are basically meaning someone's being envious or wishing bad upon me. They basically mean blockages. This little cloud over the yolk means there's a lot of negative energy. If you look closely, there's actually a face, and that's the person wishing me bad energy right there.
If you don't want to come to my house because I burn sage, then baby, it's working.
With this occurring, the idea of a witch has further fallen into the category of being a complete joke. Many of the users on TikTok create potions that they would claim to have properties of magic, such as weight loss potions, love potions.
It's Tina, and I'm back with another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I thought it would be fun to share with you guys a really simple love spell, a very practical spell that you can do with items that you probably have in your own home. It's called a sweetening spell because it's used to essentially make somebody sweeter towards you, sweet on you. If you use it on somebody you're currently with, it can be used to make them more affectionate, it can be used to make them more expressive.
Are potions that would be used as a hex on an ex-significant other.
So I have a no tool video for you guys right now, and I titled this video, "You've Been Dumped, Get Your Ex Back, No Tools." And that is exactly what this is. You've been dumped, get your ex back, no tools.
Many of these concoctions consisted of ingredients such as period blood, a man's semen, and a variety of things pertaining to the elements of earth, wind, fire, or water. The creation of these potions and knickknacks is all too similar to that of the typical believers of crystal healing, or essential oils being the cure to an endless array of health ailments. The absurdity doesn't stop here. In July of 2020, there have been several mentions by the hosts of the official podcast that a group of evil witches, known as baby witches, have put a hex on the moon.
Any controversies on the internet this week?
Oh, I got something for you boys. Did you guys hear about this group of TikTok witches that have cursed the moon?
No, the moon?
Yeah, they put a hex on the moon.
For what did the moon do?
I don't know.
Why is the moon getting cancelled? Did it molest someone?
Let's not get judgmental. Maybe the moon did something really fucked up.
So, from what I understand, this group of TikTok baby witches is the term for these. Put a hex on the moon to weaken other witches or something like that. And so now they're dealing with, I don't know, man. I read like a fucking 19-page fucking summary of what exactly is happening, and I still don't really understand.
So these kind of people,
I was hoping you guys
they
would
never
know.
get enough shit, at least not as much as, say, flat earthers or anti-vaxxers get, even though I'm sure that they're roughly same in the number as the flat earthers, right? Witches?
Yeah, probably.
Have to be, yeah.
What I managed to gather for the reasoning behind this act is that the moon is supposedly an important source of power for all witches. It would seem as though that the baby witches, who are outcast of the general witch population that are inexperienced or new to the practice of witchcraft, are a rogue group that decided for whatever reason to further toss themselves down into an outcast hole. The hexing of the moon, according to posts on Twitter, resulted in the angering of Greek gods and goddesses Artemis, her brother Apollo, and Zeus. Some witches claim to have even worked closely with Zeus on resolving this issue, and a user in particular claims to have some sort of romantic relationship with Zeus himself.
Apparently Zeus is super fucking angry about all of it. One of the
I would be if I was Zeus.
one of the women in the comments says that she's in a relationship with Zeus and he just hasn't been the same since the hex.
Fuck me, dude.
Whoa, she's dating Zeus?
Yeah, apparently Zeus has many suitors or something.
Yeah, Zeus fucks like crazy. That's not.
In Greek mythos, he genuinely turns into a stallion to fuck women.
Is it just a big burly
pelican
Greek dude who just told her he's Zeus, maybe in a toga?
Not even burly.
Just appears to her.
Some guy she met on RuneScape.
The witches in both the baby witch community and the general witch community seem to be at magical war with one another.
I don't think any moon god or goddesses are going to take this seriously. I predict that this is not going to have any results one way or the other. Because think about it from the deity's perspective. Okay, I got these stupid ass people trying to hex me with a minute long whatever on some social media platform. I could smite them, but that will just prove that magic exists, and they're gonna do more stupid shit to try to get in my good graces, and I don't want to have anything to do with these idiots. So, you know.
The general witches are fighting back by aiding and healing the moon and lifting the hex by what I assume is their use of white magic through various different rituals. It's a group effort of magical warfare conducted on both sides.
So, listen to this idiot. Hi, I'm not a witch, but I saw that people were lighting candles for the moon as offerings, and I was considering doing something similar, because despite being an atheist, I do love the moon, but I didn't want to do anything disrespectful. Any advice? So this is a prime example of fucking these smarmy hipster idiots who are like, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in all the Bible shit. I'm not an uneducated fucking rube from the Bible Belt.
Witchcraft is an interesting thing. Although I do believe that people genuinely believe in themselves to be witches, I don't necessarily believe in the magic and fictional aspects that many practitioners currently meddle in. It definitely falls into the same category as, for example, Catholics partaking in prayer. It's a thing of connecting with yourself and aiding your own willpower. The thought that any of these practices have any non-psychological impact on any other living being is absurdity and pure fantasy. The fictional elements that have been binded into modern-day witchcraft is nothing but laughable. It's mostly a community of people that, like many other communities, exists as a way to express one's ideas, fashion, culture, and opinions with other like-minded people within that community. It's a practice that has legitimate users that respect the tradition, as well as ridiculous users that seek to flourish their image in the eyes of others by displaying an overactive imagination amongst other fellow outcasts.
Of the darkness, Mother, to the immortal, let me be reborn as your child. Let your light absorb my own. Allow me passage to the darkness, as from your immortal womb, into the arms of your child, to whom I will call brother. O moonlight, let me be reborn as your child. Guide the dark ones to me, so I shall be born again.
Similar to the spells I chanted earlier, this spell in particular is one that supposedly turns one into a creature of the night. And similar to before, I have not transformed into a supernatural being. Despite this being the sad truth for those who wish to leave a part of their humanity behind and become something greater than a mere human, I want to look into the mythical being known as a vampire and display a handful of modern-day vampires and how they too evolved throughout time in similar fashion as the witches. Unlike witches, vampire origins aren't as complex in the sense that they don't have as strong ties to different religions. Considering the popularity of vampires in fiction and the widespread information of vampires from the last several centuries, I won't go on with an overly long, detailed explanations of how vampires came to be. The precursor to vampires started around the time of Mesopotamians, ancient Greeks, and Romans, all of which had tales of demons and spirits embedded in their culture. These tales would inspire the most well-known version of vampires that came about in southeastern Europe during the 18th century. In real life, they were described to be created differently based on the region. Slavic and Chinese traditions claim that any corpse jumped over by a dog or cat was feared to become one of the undead. Russian folklore would claim that vampires are the risen dead of witches who rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church. Depending on where you look, different regions throughout the world have their own interpretation of vampires and how they are created and conducted themselves. Dead bodies that were suspicious of being vampires were taken care of in different ways. A wooden stake through the heart being the most popular, as well as a cross of Christ made from aspen. Items used to ward off vampires, known as apotropaics, would often be things such as garlic, a crucifix, or holy water. Upon burial, certain regions have been known to decapitate corpses as a way of hastening the departure of the soul, which is something that is believed to linger within the body in different cultures. Much like the witches, people accused of vampirism found their own period of controversy in the 18th century. Sightings of these creatures were reported all throughout Europe. In a mass panic, government officials engaged in hunting and staking vampires. Specific individuals involved in serial killings would find themselves accused of vampirism during this period. There was never any concrete evidence for the existence of true vampires despite the mass hysteria. Buried coffins would sometimes show signs of scratches from within, which at the time would be misinterpreted as a vampire clawing at its containment. This was the result of premature burial, and people who have thought to be dead were attempting to scratch away at the wood of the coffin's interior in an attempt to escape. Illnesses such as rabies would also be the result of a change in appearance or behavior of an individual, such as hypersensitivity to garlic and other substances, erratic movements and neurological patterns, or in the case of the bubonic plague, the breakdown of lung tissue, which would cause blood to appear on the lips. This was often associated with the consumption of blood, which would be a source of energy for vampires, but not the only source, which is something I'll get into soon. I'm going to leave the past behind and move on to the modern era. Vampires in fictional media have been a massive horror selling point. Much of the popular media released in the past 100 years would take inspiration from Vlad the Impaler and his father, Vlad Dracul. Vampires are portrayed usually as a villain, and stories would often tell the tale of Dracula or his son Alucard in some recent forms of media. Countless forms of vampiric tales exist, including Hellsing, The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Twilight, Hemlock Grove, and Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines. Similar to how vampirism is depicted differently in different cultures in the past, each work of fiction have their own depiction of vampirism. I won't go into every case that I mentioned from prior fiction, but I'll explain the three primary types of vampires that people find allegiance with. Sanguinarian vampires feed off of human blood in order to gain their energy. Psychic vampires feed off of the energy or life source of humans in their vicinity. And hybrid vampires share from the combination of the prior two types, feeding off of both blood and life energy. People in the world today have claimed powers of vampirism, explain which type they are, and showcase it to the masses, much like the witches of TikTok.
I'm sure that you've been into those situations when you're talking with someone and after your conversation you're feeling drained, tired, and even sometimes guilty. And it's likely that you have encountered with an energetical vampire.
So now it's on to the really fun bit of the vampire waffles about real vampires, which is a subject I find completely fascinating. I've wasted so many evenings browsing perverse, weird websites about real vampires. I'm kind of obsessed with any subculture that is normal people claiming to be and fully believing that they're something more than human that kind of borders on the supernatural. I find that really fascinating. I mean, you read all this stuff and you have to decide for yourself at the end whether you think that, you know, there actually are borderline supernatural people or whether they're all just endearingly deluded. But, either way, I find it fascinating.
Question number 8. Do you burst into flames in the sunlight? No, I do not. I do not burst into flames in the sunlight. Do I like sunlight? No, I don't like sunlight. Sunlight and me, we don't vibe. As a vampire, it makes me ill. It makes me feel unpleasant. I do not enjoy it. I get about 5 minutes to a migraine, about 15 minutes to crippling stomach pain, about 20 minutes to crippling body pain.
One of the most popular instances in recent times involves an individual that goes by the name of Don Henry, who had an appearance on National Geographic where he explains his vampirism.
This is Don Henry.
I am a vampire. I do consume human blood. There is a real live community that exists not only within the States, but also throughout the world. Well, these days we don't go ripping people's throats out or anything like that. We're quite mature with what we do. We keep things within doors. We don't go out, searching for victims or anything like that.
Dozens of people married to the idea of vampirism, especially in similar fashion to that of Don Henry, have come out of the woodworks to gain popularity with their beliefs.
I know for a fact that there are a lot more people out there who drink human blood than you could be aware of. Your neighbor could be a blood drinker.
I don't agree with it.
Julia's daughter, Ariel, struggles with her mum's gruesome practices.
You are literally, by definition, a leech and a parasite.
Everything from the way these people speak, to their fashion, and even their home decor, highlights nothing but the fantasy in their heads that they're living in. Because vampires are tailored more closely with having supernatural characteristics, such as being immortal and having supernatural strength, the communities are far less in quantity than you would see with the tamer, less fantastical witch community. The amount of people that disregard their beliefs as being true are higher in quantity than that of the witch community. Although communities of self-proclaimed vampires do exist throughout the world, They merely show off their supposed lust for blood, aesthetic choices, and ties to the gothic culture that took on these types of people around the 90s, when industrial music and raunchy underground clubs that catered to their interests especially began to sprout. None of them have obviously showcased any proof of immortality, metamorphosis, or even the ability to drain life aura, as the psychic vampires claim to do. The modern vampire simply takes inspiration from goth culture and roleplay with their imagination in the real world. The evolution of vampire hunters has also resulted in drastic change. Originally starting as government officials looking to take down vampires, and gravediggers seeking to put a permanent end to a suspected corpse, the vampire hunters of today only act as an extension to the vampiric roleplay. Most portrayal of vampire hunters and anti-vampire groups are usually satirical and silly in nature, like anti-vampire messages being tagged across walls with graffiti, or ads poking fun at vampires that inhabit the communities of common folk.
I don't want them living in my neighborhood.
As soon as one moves in, the property values go down all over the place.
I just don't feel safe at night anymore.
I don't want them anywhere near my kids.
Children see this lifestyle and maybe they want to imitate it.
They're just so unnatural.
Should we just let them go and do whatever they want? Absolutely not.
They make me scared.
Say no to the Vampire Rights Amendment.
Or the crusades formed against vampires on the internet, such as a vampire hunter known as Jalokia Man. As I've said before, vampirism is only an exhibit for one's overactive imagination. Witches and vampires on the internet in the modern day take influence from folklore and history and give it a modern twist in order to feel part of a community of like-minded people.
Vampire scene was the icing on the cake for me.
Pretty much most of us has been like the outskirts, like the outcast of families who need something and look for other ways to belong. The things I tell people when they tell me that I'm a freak, I'm a vampire, whatever they call me, all I say is, well, I am who I am, and you are who you are. If you don't like it, that's too bad.
Their beliefs and opinions may exist and harmonize with other members of their community, but unfortunately, the magical and supernatural aspects that they emphasize in video have no existence whatsoever, but one is free to play around with the thought for their own entertainment.
Well, I'm making this video. It's about being a werewolf. I have to control it. But it's...
New spell appears. My name is Shadow. Just Shadow. And I guess by looking at me, you think I'm a normal teenager tomboy, I guess we can go with? Well, I'm not. I'm a teen werewolf.
Enough with the spell chanting. By this point, my soul must be made up of a plethora of scattered fragments that are all trying to find a mythical being to align with. I will cease to chant spells and let my soul take a rest. Although the witches and vampires are the most common type of folklore that you will see people on the internet involve themselves with, there are probably dozens, if not hundreds of other varieties of creatures or beings of folklore that children, teens, and some adults will claim to have spells that would turn themselves into any one of them. The amount of videos online of people who believe in these spells are overwhelming, and the majority of the creators of these videos are children, so I don't want to include any footage of them in particular, considering that they are young, feeble minds that will eventually grow out of the phase, or worst case scenario, go into their early adult life with new beliefs that they might be a magical witch, vampire, mermaid, or any of the other handful of beings that I mentioned at any point earlier in this video.
Pardon me, I'm gonna brush my hair. I'm gonna get myself all primped and ready for my debut video here on the internets. I do declare I have never had a time like this, not with anybody. Hi everyone, my name's Logan South, and I'm a vampire.
I'll start off with the simple and less popular beings, such as elves and fairies. A large amount of children can be found all over the internet that make videos chanting spells and claiming to have some characteristics that align with elves and fairies, such as pointed ears or supposed glowing complexion. Alongside these videos also exist an endless amount of clips that contain just slideshows of fantasy artwork and on-screen text that usually have a tutorial written out on how to become a being of folklore by commanding the viewer to say a specific chant, and sometimes even insisting that it only works based on several factors, like what time of day it is, what month, or what year it is. These videos are similar to other ones that you'll find of believers in high fantasy beings, such as dragons or mermaids. These two in particular is where the people that have surpassed their teenage years will continue to have beliefs in.
Hello my brothers and sisters on the Dragon's Path. My name is Tim Hay and I believe in dragons. Ever since I was 18 years old, I met my dragon for the first time. For the first time that I knew it, because the real first time was when I was 6 years old. But when I was 18 years old, I experienced my dragon for the first time. It was so amazing. That was magical. And there is something you need to know about your path. Once you know and you came across your dragon and you feel the energy touching your energy. That is a soul. I call an energy a soul. That is when your energy inside of you awakens. It awakens up. It's an energy inside of you. Your soul, your energy has gates. And when a dragon touches it, it opens up. And also all the gates, I mean, all 5 of them, all these gates are opening for you. That is where the dragon is. And it was never, because what was coming to me,
Hi friends! I can't believe I'm actually going to share this with you today. This is the secret spell and potion that I personally use to turn into a mermaid. Okay, I probably shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm filming this. It's almost Halloween, so it's like the perfect time to tell you about this.
The amount is still fairly obscure, however. The majority of this folklore is childish in nature, and lighthearted in the sense that the believers mostly consist of children who are having fun with their imaginations. But the absurdity picks up once more when we move on to the topic of lycanthropy, those who are afflicted with the curse of being a werewolf.
Are you ready to be torn apart? This world is a strange one, Good evening, Night Watchers. A lot of you want to know what I think the most horrifying monster is. Well, let me tell you. It's werewolves. Ever since I watched my first werewolf movie, these transforming monsters scare the hell out of me. Thankfully for me, though, they were only works of fiction, right? Wrong.
Story videos of possible werewolf sightings throughout time can be found all over the internet, many of which will often take a turn into fictional territory and lose all credibility of being considered real. These are often just clickbait titles from narration channels that wish to attract a greater audience that isn't looking to hear a brief, spooky tale. The absurdity comes into play when you dig deep enough and find instances of real people who believe they are werewolves, some of which will even go as far as putting on a show by attempting to shapeshift on camera to prove their claim, such as the following.
Well, I'm making this video. It's about being a werewolf. You know, I seen a lot of werewolf movies, you know. I seen a lot of them, and some people think it's fake. Some people think it's real. For the people that think it's fake, shame on you. Shame. For the people that think it's real, thumbs up for you. Werewolves are real. They are. They're very real. Very real indeed. Because I am a werewolf. My transformation is not quite what you might think it would be. For I am just a beginner. I'm not an alpha. Or what you want to call it. I'm not any of that. But I'm about to channel my inner liking. My inner wolf. You know? Just like on Teen Wolf, you know? I can't let myself lose control like that. Sometimes it's hard to control it, you know? But this is what I wanted to show you all. Please don't think I'm crazy for doing this. But I could just feel it pulsating inside me. And it gets stronger and stronger each day.
In most cases, shapeshifting won't be included in most of these videos due to the obvious fact that it's not possible for anyone to become a beast of the night. But people will still insist that they are in fact carrying lycanthropy, and much like the vampires showcased earlier, they morph the characteristics of werewolves in order to make it align with the limitations of being a human. Vampires would claim sensitivity to sunlight and a lack of immortality.
Do I burst into flames in the sunlight? No. Internally, my insides, they burst into flames. That's, yeah, absolutely. You know, I explode. I explode from the inside out, or I implode, whatever. Yeah, totally. No, not at all. I don't burst into flames in the sunlight. Are you immortal? No. Are you? No, I'm not immortal. I've never been immortal, nor have I ever claimed to be immortal. I think it'd be fun. Don't get me wrong. I think I'd have a lot of fun being immortal. Imagine the things that you could see and do if you were immortal. Imagine the ways that you could fuck with your friends, you know? Hell, honestly, if I was immortal, all I would do is just rub it in my friend's face once they turned 80. I'd be standing over their bedside and going, ha, well, look at me with the young face and you with the old face. And, you remember that time that you know, whatever.
Whereas werewolves will claim a peculiar hunger for meat and a peculiar mental or physical feeling during a full moon. The reasoning as to why werewolves are another popular choice for people to believe in is most likely due to the rise in popularity alongside witches and vampires. Werewolves in media are almost always portrayed as the opposing force to vampires if the two of them are present within. This is especially highlighted in the plots of shows, video games, and movies such as Twilight, Hemlock Grove, and The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Werewolves are just another addition to the roleplay that radical witch and vampire fanatics partake in. Communities of these people are not as often seen in video, but definitely have an online presence on message boards and really any place where text is the primary means of communication, where identities of people can remain anonymous. For example, a subreddit of about 30 people on Reddit's Real Werewolves can be viewed, where once in a blue moon, a member would post questions regarding lycanthropy, or posts simply pertaining to wanting to have conversations with fellow werewolves. The comments in these threads usually showcase people who appear to be on edge, and are hesitant to even share details of their lives with lycanthropy with the original poster. Once again, it's almost like a display of fantastical living. The commenters come off as though they were members of a secret society, and they have to be on guard at all times to avoid some sort of conflict. A large Reddit community that dabbles somewhat in the supernatural topics is that of the subreddit called The Truth Is Here. There aren't many posts pertaining to people claiming supernatural abilities, but it's a place where many questionable topics are thrown around, such as sightings of odd creatures, people looking to recruit members of groups that hunt down evil supernatural beings, and even some likely troll posts, such as a user going by the name of Big Cock in Your Ass 69 LMAO, asking if anyone else in the community is in a relationship with a non-physical being. This group of people is far less on the nose than that of any witch, vampire, or werewolf community, and the description itself mentions the welcoming of open-minded, skeptical analysis in regards to any topics. But besides that, it's still a group of like-minded individuals who grasp at straws in hopes that their experiences with any supposed supernatural beings will be viewed as true.
Is that? Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god, what is that?
We're getting out of here. Go home.
Oh my god. Oh!
I think we're not going to resurface till the morning for the last little.
I told my mom I thought I saw a werewolf, and my mom believed me.
I was walking along a good probably 7 to 10 seconds before it had turned its head.
That thing, that was no dog. That was too big to be a dog. That thing was bigger than me.
That thing was stalking cornfields, jumping on cars, and feasting on roadkill. For 2 years, people in Elkhorn, Wisconsin whispered about a king-sized creature who roamed Bray Road.
It had really big claws, it was holding its roadkill like it had elbows, and it was kneeling on 2 knees, like a human being might do.
It is said that possibly the devil had cooked 12 evil women together to create her. And she does more than just eat children. She's set to bring evil to the world.
Wicca is religion, witchcraft is the practice of a religion, so you can get Christian witches, Muslim witches. Wicca was actually founded in the 1950s, so if you're Wiccan, you're a witch. If you're a witch, you're not a Wiccan.
All in all, every type of folklore I've covered here has deep roots. The tales of most of these things all basically started from misconceptions and spread of misinformation that would be inevitable in earlier human history, when alleged facts weren't necessarily backed up with proper truth. Rather than being left in the past as an example of what human ignorance and paranoia would stir up, such as the imprisonment or death brought to innocent, normal people who are accused of vampirism or witchcraft, fiction of the post-witch trials world would paint a romanticized version of folklore in every way human imagination could bring to fruition.
I had probably drank maybe a quarter of a cup of her blood, and it made me feel euphoric.
It was like tasting pure power.
Pretty much drinking blood was the only option.
I've had people tell me that my blood tastes really good to them.
A lot of people would want to be involved in touching the blood or actually drinking the blood.
If I could stop drinking blood, I definitely would. It feels very, very, very good. It takes a while for the effects of it to take effect, but the beginning of it, the actual taking feels very, very good because it's the foreknowledge. I know what I'm going to feel like in just a little while.
Since everyone wants to tell me I did it wrong, we're going to do it again. This right here is rainwater charged in the full moon. I've been burning my pink candle for a minute now to guarantee that there is enough wax to drip. A lot of folks told me I was doing it too fast, so here we go with the slow pour.
Hey baby, have you seen my strawberry leaves?
No. No, what? Strawberry leaves? No, haven't seen them.
No? Okay.
No.
Alright, well if you do.
Sorry.
If you find, I don't know where they went, but if you find them, can you please pull them aside for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
With this mass creation of fiction, it brought many new ideas and gave birth to specific new cultures that would align with their respective character of folklore. And these ideas would find their way to cling to the minds of young, lost people in the real world who would subscribe to the lifestyle that these characters of fantasy would live in books and film. The number of these people would grow large, and conflicting ideas and opinions would clash for decades, until what we see now would be churned out as the final result. The confused minds of witch talk witches.
Any bad intent that you have, like, oh, my metabolism's slow, oh, I never lose weight, like, get that out. Bye. The reason you need water is because it's been known to change its molecules based on your thoughts and intent. Like your structure of your water, it changes based on words and thoughts. It's been proven. So what you're gonna do every time you get a bottle of water and you're about to drink out of it, wrap your hands around it and say, I have a fast metabolism. It is hard for me to gain weight. I only eat when I need to be healthy and survive. I crave only healthy foods. I get full very easily. I am naturally thin.
The snobby cockiness of vanity internet vampires.
I'm a vampire. No, I don't mean that sarcastically. No, I don't mean I'm joking. No, I don't mean, oh my god, I'm a vampire, I'm immortal. No. My name is Logan South, and I'm a vampire. Yeah, I know. Sounds kind of weird. Sounds kind of strange, but it's true. You know, those of you who are vampires, you know that that's a thing. And so, hi. Big shout out to everybody out there. How you doing?
And an overwhelming array of other flavors of people in similar predicaments that would only find a home here on this bizarre online world of oddities.
I like to make werewolf movies.
I fight vampires.
Werewolves like to howl.
They meet in the jungle of dirt.
Every night I turn myself into a werewolf